Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Cyber Resiliency with IBM Cloud and Veeam. Thank you so much for joining us on this exciting webinar event presented in partnership, of course, with our friends at Veeam and IBM Cloud. We at Actual Tech Media want these events to be educational. We encourage your questions on this event. You're going to see a live demo and learn about this exciting new partnership and feature set from IBM Cloud and Veeam. Now, before we get started, there's just a few things that you should know about today's event. First off, my name is David Davis, and I'll be serving as the host and moderator on the webinar today. We encourage your questions there in the questions pane of the audience console. We'll be doing a dedicated Q&A session at the end of the event, and so keep those questions coming throughout. We even have a best question prize to help maybe further encourage some questions or shake some questions loose. I'll talk about that here more in just a moment. But first, I want to call your attention there to the Handouts tab. It's there that you'll find additional resources on these exciting new features from IBM Cloud and Veeam, a solution brief, special guides, special resources. Make sure that you check those out before you leave the event today. I think you'll find a lot of great details in there. And then at the end of the live webinar today, I'll be announcing the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card. This will be only going to, of course, one lucky winner on the live event. If you're watching this event on demand or recording, that drawing has already occurred. The prize terms and conditions can be found there in the Handouts tab. And then, as I mentioned, we also have our best question prize for a $50 Amazon gift card. You must ask a question to be entered into the prize drawing and meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. All right, so with that housekeeping information out of the way, it's now time to introduce you to today's two expert presenters. Welcome first to Sam Fisher. He is a sales director for IBM Cloud at Veeam, and Mr. Dave Mitchell, who is a senior product manager for global solutions at IBM Cloud. Sam and Dave, it's great to have you both on. Now, before I bring you on, I want to first set the stage for the challenges that companies out there are facing today when it comes to data protection and disaster recovery. And I should point out that these statistics here come from the Veeam Data Protection Report, the 2022 edition that was recently released. I encourage you to check that out. First one being here that 89% of companies out there admit to having a data protection gap. In other words, almost 90% of companies out there feel like they need to be doing a better job when it comes to data protection. And of course, that's what this event is all about. And I think you're going to see a really innovative, cool solution to help you if you're one of those 90% of companies out there who feel like they need to be doing more when it comes to data protection and disaster recovery planning. I'm sure that most of you out there fit into that bucket. And then another statistic here, 67% of organizations out there already use cloud services of some kind as part of their data protection strategy. And we'll be learning more about IBM Cloud here on the webinar as well. And then 40% of servers out there have suffered at least one outage in a year. 40% of servers, that's a huge percentage. If you think of all the critical applications, tier one applications that are running on these servers, either in the on-premises data center or in the cloud, 40% have suffered an outage. And there's huge costs associated, with those outages, depending on the types of applications that are running on those servers. Another stat here, 42% of IT leaders consider hybrid cloud workload protection as one of the most important aspects of their enterprise backup. And that's because, as we know, more and more applications are running across hybrid clouds. No more do applications just run in the on-premises data center. We've got SaaS applications, hybrid cloud applications, cloud-native applications, multi-cloud applications. And so these are all considered highly critical to IT leaders in the survey. And then another stat here, 20% of IT implementers say improving reliability and RPO and RTO will drive changing their backup solution in 2022. So these IT professionals, they need greater reliability. They need greater RPO and RTO. And if they can get it, they're willing to make changes to their data protection solution. All right. So, with that, it's now my pleasure to bring in today's two expert presenters. Welcome, Sam Fisher from Veeam and Dave Mitchell from IBM. Sam and Dave, it's great to have you both on. I'll first hand it off to you, Sam. Take it away.
All right. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. And thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We're excited to talk about a new solution that we have with IBM Cloud, talking about cyber recovery on IBM Cloud powered by Veeam. Lots of discussions around cyber these days, and I think everybody's having to address this issue. And we want to help you go over some solutions today, how we can help you. So first of all, I think we've all seen a lot of the numbers and the trends and the reports and everything on it, but basically it all points to the fact that everybody is having to deal with cyber and protecting their data and making sure that they have the process in place to be able to protect against ransomware. Now you see some of the numbers down below on the number of organizations that are having a protection gap, and organizations that have been hit by at least one ransomware attack out there. And probably the other thing is, that's data that's uncoverable out there. So we need to make sure that we have that plan in place. Now, Veeam has done a very extensive analysis on this. We went out and surveyed over 3,000 people and come up with all kinds of information associated to this. And we want to touch on a few of these key highlights on this protection trend. Now, this is probably not going to surprise anybody, but obviously there are lots of reasons why there may be some outages, real world outages out there. But today, the top one on the list is always cybersecurity. And over the last couple of years, the ones that's had the most impact in people's business happens to do around cybersecurity. And you can kind of look down the list of many of the different reasons why there are outages out there. A lot of these are maybe self-imposed or infrastructure or just user data and so on that maybe the users had an issue with their process. But really, the number one is cybersecurity events out there. Dave, let me ask you your thoughts on some of these different outages that you've seen as well.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate Sam. Glad to be here as well. Yeah, cybersecurity is always at the top of the list. I mean, everybody's very interested in that, but it's kind of interesting is that some of this, what's number 2, number 3, number 4, infrastructure outages, data corruption, accidental deletion, application software outage. A lot of our customers, as they kind of transition to, this cloud model or this client-centric model in their business, where you have to be agile, you have to be responsive to your customers, you have to, give the customers that one little thing more than, your competition can do. It means that there's a lot of human and manual intervention, and all of these things like infrastructure and accidental deletion are also a threat to data. It's not just a cybersecurity event. It's all this stuff, and it's not just normal kind of database data. It's critical infrastructure information like router tables and a backup admin credentials and things like that are also at risk.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Now, with that in mind, from a Veeam perspective, we always look at it and say, having your data protected, having your data backed up is really kind of the first line of defense on this as well. But I want to kind of throw out a couple of questions here in regards to what happens to your business if your business continuity plans did not include a recovery from a disaster or cyber attack. What would happen to your business? Or if there were fines that you're being assessed because you're violating geo-specific compliance rules, and how would that impact the profitability of your company? And then also, what if this happens and your business came just to a grinding halt because you couldn't get to your data out there? All of these are real world problems that we're seeing in the market today. Now, also, I'll come back and say, but what if instead you truly had the confidence that your data is protected out there, that you're ensuring that it's always available and protected from ransomware? And because of that, if you're meeting all the compliance regulations out there, that you're not having to pay any of those fines associated to that. And of course, you don't want to be held hostage to any of these bad actors out there. Having a good, solid backup and secure backup of your data out there will help you eliminate these issues. So, being prepared and having a good, secure backup of your data is the first line of defense. Now, as we talk about, there's companies need these reliable recovery options, and obviously with Veeam, we're really focused on cyber protection, cyber resiliency, and ransomware protection out there. And from a backup perspective, really looking at that immutability factor and having that trusted immutability. We're going to talk more about immutability through the presentation here, but having that immutable storage and your data protected through immutability is key. Now, also verifying that your backups are in place and it's truly verified that data is secure. And then we're also going to talk about tiering of that data, whether it's on-prem, in the cloud, multi-cloud, being able to have different tiers for your data. Now, talking about validation, that recovery side of that, okay, you've got the data backed up. Now you need to be able to make sure you can recover that data and have that true validated recovery process. I talked about the secure restore as well, making sure that all of that data is secure as you're restoring it from one environment to the other. And of course, through this process, having a true orchestration for your disaster recovery plans for ransomware protection. So all of this giving you an opportunity to make sure you have the confidence that your data is backed up and protected from ransomware. Now, Dave, I think you wanted to highlight a couple things on the right here.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about cybersecurity and recovery, the big word is recovery, and and a secure restore. One of the things that we've run into in some of our customers and clients is that when they back up the data, they back up the malware, or they back up the the threat as well, and that even occurs when they do a complete DR backup as well. When you're doing a disaster recovery, you're actually backing up the entire infrastructure, and the object here is, of course, to be up and running quickly, and which is protects you against disasters and regional problems and outages and things like that. But when you're talking about cyber recovery, the main word is recovery, and that is being able to recover the data and reintroduce it into production without the reintroducing the threats.
Okay, thank you,
this
Dave.
is a great feature here.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, Dave, about this is a great feature, recovering the data without reintroducing the threats. I think that's so important. And I'm wondering, can you give us a little bit more detail on exactly how you accomplish that?
So there's a number of different ways of doing that. And that's important to understand, that every client and organization is different. And because every organization is different, there's going to be different types of threats, different types of issues. What we're trying to do with the cyber recovery and Veeam on IBM Cloud is actually create an infrastructure so that clients can then build their own security solutions that deals with their threats. So in this particular case, one organization might have, a threat detection software with following, the NIST cybersecurity frameworks and, scanning for malware. And once it's scanned, it's determined to be, clean and accurate. And at that point, you would then move that over into the secure cyber recovery solution, knowing that it's a good, clean system. Depending on the client and what experience they have, they can either use their own tools and set this all up and screen it, or if they want, they can use our existing infrastructure to build their own tools and work with our environment. Or they can, work with a managed security solutions provider to help with the scanning. It's basically up to them.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right. Now, many of you that have been working with and using the Veeam solutions for years here, you've probably heard us say many times the 3-2-1 rule and leveraging that rule and that model. And what that means is having 3 different copies of your data on 2 different media types, and one of those needs to be an offsite copy. That's the 3-2-1 rule. But now we extended that into 3-2-1-1-0, and that 1-0 being one of those needs to be air-gapped, immutable storage from production environment out there. And then, of course, the 0 being no errors, not providing any way for there to be any errors, or bringing that back into reintroducing that into the environment. So this 3-2-1-1-0 is the new zip code, if you will, for ransomware protection. Now, Dave, let me turn it over to you. I know that you want to talk about the IBM Cloud solution here for cyber recovery and a little bit of build out on the solution.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, Sam, this is kind of exciting for IBM. I mean, we've been looking at this, and we have worked, together with Veeam, VMware, and IBM, kind of collaborated together on pulling this solution. As I mentioned, it's kind of an infrastructure solution, but the whole concept is to build on that 3-2-1-1-0 theme. And as you can see here, you've got your Veeam and your production environment running as any normal company organization would have. And then Veeam has the ability, if you go to the next slide, to use any type of storage mechanism that is supported with Veeam. And they have a really interesting and very great performance tier as part of their solution. They can use direct attached storage, network attached storage, any kind of a hardened repository that's immutable, or any of those types of solutions. But again, this is in production. So what we are providing is this next step. And that next step is a third tier, something that we call a capacity tier or an isolated recovery environment tier, which provides that extra space. It's completely offline. In other words, it's not part of the production environment or that landscape. So it's prevented through what we call a virtual air gap, which is, we can talk a little bit more about that later on, and you'll see how that's set up. That virtual air gap is configured by the client or the user to open and close between the production environment and the isolated recovery environment. And basically that allows once the data virtual gap is closed, to be completely separated from production environment. So you have a completely different set of admin credentials. You also have this isolated environment that you can then spin up multiple VMs and clusters so that you can run some testing. You can scale out as far as adding some production test servers and validating the information again in this recovered environment. And then once it's determined to be okay, you can then choose to move it back into production, or you can move it to another cloud site within IBM Cloud's infrastructure, which is kind of a worldwide infrastructure. You can move it to any other geo-dispersed location, and you're set to go.
This is very cool. I love the immutability from start to finish. I'm curious about the sizing. We talk about a scale-out backup repository here. How would one go about sizing, let's say, the performance tier?
I'll let Sam kind of talk about that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, David, this varies by environment, whatever the customer's environment may be. However, from a Veeam perspective, we have our solution architects that are there to support and assist our customers as they do scoping and sizing to make sure that this is set up properly there as well. And so, to be able to provide some of the best practices from sizing and scoping, we're here to help.
Awesome. Thank you.
And let me just add 2 cents onto the capacity tier sizing. This could be sized, basically, it's very flexible. It's built on VMware. It's a cloud-based model. So you can add more storage, more sizing, more application space as is needed. You can even disperse it. So you can have like 3 or 4 cyber recovery vaults located in 3 or 4 different geographies, depending on the organization.
Okay. Thanks, Dave.
Wow, this is some detail, huh? This is actually what you get. This is a basic architecture of the cyber recovery solution. You can see, how we separate from production the cyber recovery vault or cyber recovery area that's on the right. Again, this is in IBM Cloud. Just a couple of things to point out here. You'll see there's an edge services cluster. We support Juniper, and there's a number of other choices that we offer as part of the cloud. You'll see the Linux hardened repository there. You'll also see a number of sandbox VMs that can be spun up on demand if needed. You also have a consolidated cluster where we use for management. That's where the Veeam application software will be sitting, and it communicates with the Veeam software in the production center that's on the data center or in the production side. A lot of moving parts, a lot of pieces here. And the other last thing I wanted to point out is, if you were to build all this yourself, you'd have to actually go in and look at how this is architected. You'd have to get all of the software. You'd have to do the testing. You have to get the application running. You have to get all the licensing set up, all the VMs and VMware going. You have to set up the bare metal Linux hardened repository to talk to. A lot of moving parts here if you were going to do it yourself. And what we're doing is here at IBM is offering this completely automated. So you'll be able to just go in, click a few buttons, and this is automatically configured, set up, and ready to go for your Veeam.
Great solution. Speaking of automation, Dave.
Yeah, I mean, when you go to IBM Cloud for VMware Solutions, you'll see there's a tile highlighted here in green, and you just click that and off you go. I actually have a little demo that one of our engineers did that let me show it to you now.
As part of the upcoming release, we are offering a new deployment type, cyber recovery. The main value proposition of this deploy type is to provide resiliency against cyber attacks that affect your primary environment. The cyber recovery deployment type accomplishes this by offering a VCS environment that can be air-gapped while providing data backups on immutable storage. I'll take you through the UI and show you what can be expected. We have a new tile on the resource page where you can order a cyber recovery instance. So you click on this and it takes you to the order page here. So the same infrastructure options available on VCS are also available here. So you have your usual license choices, your usual host options with your RAM and number of servers. You have your usual storage options and your networking options. The users can optionally order a workload cluster. However, since this is intended to be an isolated recovery environment, they would not be running the primary workloads here. Instead, the cyber recovery architecture document suggests a workload cluster can be used as a quarantine sandbox for deploying security testing tools. These tools can be used to test the validity and safety of the backups that are stored. In the case of a security breach being discovered in the primary environment, previous backups could be tested to ensure they were not affected by the breach at the time they were backed up. And then additionally, we require a firewall appliance. So where the cyber recovery environment differs is that we require this firewall appliance similar to the regulated workload deploy type. And the options are the same here. They can have an edge cluster with Juniper VSRX, an edge cluster with FortiGate virtual appliance. They can have an edge cluster where they bring their own gateway, or they can have the FortiGate security appliance. In the case where they're ordering the edge cluster itself, they have the usual edge cluster options in terms of what host they want, the RAM, and the uplink speed. The firewall appliance is intended to be used as a way to create an air gap into the environment. The firewall could be briefly opened in order to allow backups from the primary environment to take place. Once the backup completes, the firewall is reinstated and the cyber recovery instance is no longer accessible from the outside, creating an air gap. The specific firewall config to accomplish this has to be configured by the end user. We currently do not offer automation to configure the air gap on the edge services. Currently, the standard VCS config is applied to the edge services. And then, like I said before, you can have your usual edge cluster options here. And then scrolling down, you have your usual DNS options and your host naming options. And then moving on to the services. So here we have the services that you need to install. So Veeam is a required service, of course, and this is the main value add of the instance here. So you have looking at the options here, you have your usual options for the VPR, the VM, the VSI, or the bare metal. But here where we differ is that it requires the Linux hardened repository. This is the heart of the offering. It is where the user is able to make backups on the immutable storage, and like in the normal VCS instance, the usual storage size options are available. If an edge service was chosen, in this case, VSRX was here, but if you go up and select FortiGate, the option becomes FortiGate down here. So if you pick that edge service, that included service shows up here. Additionally, Cavionics is a recommended service, but it is not required. It's optional, so you can deselect that. The rest of the normal VCS services are optional, and they show up here in case a user would like to add them. So the next thing I'm going to show you is the cyber recovery instance itself. So you come over to your resources page. We have a new tab. Click on cyber recovery. You have your instance, and I already have it up here. So once you click onto your instance, you go to the summary page. This is the same as you would expect with the normal VCS instance, same with the infrastructure tab. And then as normal, you can add and remove hosts and clusters as per usual. The same goes for the licensing tab, deployment history, all that's the same. Where things differ is the services tab, and this kind of affects day two operations. So the Veeam service itself right now is currently not able to be removed, as this is the main part of the cyber recovery instance. Additionally, your edge service is only able to be removed via ticket, similar to regulated workload. Otherwise, the rest of the services, like Cavionics, those can be edited and removed as normal. The only other thing to note here is that public REST API for services is currently disabled. And this concludes the overview of the new cyber recovery deployment site.
So as you can see, you've gotten it all configured, you got it all set up, you've gone through, selected all of your settings that you want to do, and it's automatically created. Everything's ready to go. The next step is to actually begin, doing the work, because it's all set up. You've got the configuration, the licensing, your consolidated management cluster, your workload cluster, and you can add different workload clusters, or you can set up multiple cyber recovery sites, depending on your, if you have a compliance or a regulatory need. You can also, it's billed monthly, so you can spin up a cyber recovery site, keep it up and running for a couple of months, use it for testing, use it for regulatory or compliance purposes, and then, move the data off to tape or to, long-term storage if you need to, and then shut it down. So, there's no need to spin up or purchase a lot of different hardware or set up in your data center all this very expensive resources and go through all of that. So it pretty much covers, most use cases. Again, it's kind of a foundational solution. So, based on your customer needs, it's pretty much ready to go.
Dave, that was a really cool demo. Thank you so much for taking the time to share that with the audience here. I mean, that's generated a lot of audience questions, and one of them they're wanting to know here, can we run our recovered virtual machines in the IBM Cloud?
So absolutely. The cyber recovery environment is separate from production. So in the IBM Cloud, your production environment will be separate from this cyber recovery on IBM Cloud environment, because we still have that air-gapped protection. And remember, the secret of keeping the data secure is to actually keep it offline. So once you do get an attack, or once you do need to restore the data, you can then simply restore it into one of the virtual servers or virtual work groups, determine it's okay, and then you can move it out of the cyber recovery vault or environment and put it into the production environment within IBM Cloud. When you move the data within IBM Cloud's network, there's no charges or extra fees for moving data around within the environment. So you can set these up no matter where you need to.
Excellent. I love that. That could get these applications back up and running, so fast. There is another question here. They're asking, let's say we run our virtual machines, our applications in the IBM Cloud for some time. We want to pull that data or those VMs back down on premises. Are there associated egress charges for doing that?
So IBM does have some standard charges for moving data from the IBM Cloud back down into production. It varies based on customer and data type. There's no charges for moving data within the IBM network and within our clouds. And we have data centers throughout, almost every region. So that there's no charge for that. But moving data down, we do have a slight charge, and it's different based on customer.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And then what about the recovery portion of it? Is this something that's self-service that someone could do, without picking up the phone and calling IBM?
Yes. Yeah, exactly. This is a dedicated kind of shared, not a shared solution. So it's not as a service. It's basically, think of it as your own infrastructure that you would have in your own data center. The only difference is that you don't have to manage it or maintain it or set it up. We handle all that for you. You can customize your solution specifically for your security needs, and that's a big differentiation there, because a lot of organizations just say point a URL and say, store your data up here and we'll protect it for you, and you never really know exactly what's going on behind the curtain there. We give you full access and full control over this infrastructure. You can size it as you need to. You can open and close the air gap as you want to. It's totally up to you to create your own solution based on whatever security needs you might have.
Right.
Very nice. Yeah. Thanks for digging down into the details there and answering those audience questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Dave. All right. Now, Dave, I think you want to talk just a couple more minutes on this one as well.
No, I just wanted to, this is just to let people know. It's like I said, it's fully automated. I think you saw that in the demo, and we support all kinds of data. I know there's been some questions on whether, does it have to be just VMs? Any type of data that is or target or system that can support, Veeam. And I know you've got some pretty big supported operating systems, as well as I'll let you kind of go into detail on that later, perhaps. But any system that supports Veeam will work with this. We also kind of provide a run book, kind of a solutions guide, or what I call a recipe book. So you can actually work and build some of the parts and pieces yourself if you want to really build some custom recovery solutions. But of course, we also have the automated infrastructure that's all set up, as you saw, that includes just about everything.
Yeah, and you mentioned about the different environments there. As you know, as the audience knows, Veeam has pretty much built our business in conjunction with VMware and the solutions around that, and the same holds true within IBM Cloud. And so being able to leverage VMware and the full hypervisor within IBM Cloud provides significant capabilities for the customers out there. So just another additional values for customers to be able to leverage.
Yeah, Veeam, any Veeam agent or plugin, that's supported by Veeam can be pushed to the Cyber Recovery or IBM Cloud.
Great. And so I want to also kind of switch gears a little bit and just talk about the protecting and detecting these issues out there. And there are multiple different features and functions within the Veeam solution that are part of this cyber recovery offering from IBM. But really, one of the key solutions is Veeam One. It's another component as part of our Veeam availability suite that's in IBM Cloud, and it allows you to really truly go out there and identify and detect and protect your assets from some of this ransomware. So we'll talk a little bit more over the next couple slides on this. Now, talking about detecting the signs of the ransomware, there are several different things that are going to happen there. You're going to see an increase in the data and the different activities, and the performance may be going up or down there. And leveraging Veeam One as part of that solution helps you identify those signs where there's something wrong, something's going on, and help you be able to identify that immediately. Now, being ready to recover with these solutions, we talked earlier in the fact that backing up the data is key, but recovering that data is very, very important as well. That's the key part of this out there, and making sure that you have these the monitoring and the management options to be able to do that. Once again, leveraging Veeam One as a key way to do that.
Now, we got a question coming in here. They're asking about the automated testing capabilities, which you've got actually here on this slide. They're wanting to know, if you can give us some details on exactly what types of automated tests can be performed.
Yeah, so with Veeam, there are multiple ways to automate the process on that. And with our disaster recovery orchestrator, it truly is an orchestration automation tool for your disaster recovery components of this. We also leverage our data labs technology, part of one of the features with Veeam, being able to allow you to be able to put that data and that those resources offline to be able to do any of the testing against that, do any of the analysis of that data before you reintroduce that data back into the environment. So that's just another one of the examples of that automated testing and the process that you can use Veeam for. And as we talked about for disaster recovery and the orchestration of this, it's really, really important that you have your process in place. And, Dave mentioned earlier the run books that are available with IBM Cloud to be able to leverage this as well. So those best practices to be able to leverage it in this environment to protect your data. Dave, any other comments to that?
No, you pretty much hit on everything. That I guess the only thing I would have to add is that this just adds better value to the entire solution.
Yeah. All right. We talked earlier about immutability, and it is key to this whole solution and having that immutability and the air gap storage out there with your data. And we can look at it as a double play and even a triple play to be able to have the immutability out there. And having these, the Linux immutability, as well as the S3 immutable backups out there as well. So Veeam is able to provide both of these for you within IBM Cloud. Now, of course, there's also the triple play and the fact that, tape still plays a critical role out there. And some of these environments have a requirement to be able to have these offsite in a tape environment. And the Veeam solution allows you to be able to leverage this as well, not only from the immutable, the S3, as well as the tape libraries. Now, the results of all this really kind of comes down to what is it doing for you and how's it protecting your data. We just talked about the immutable object storage out there, protecting against ransomware. It is a really key component of the overall process and solution. And also, as you're doing all of this, having the processes in place to be able to protect your critical data, making sure you're backing up that data properly, securely, and being able to recover that data. Now, Dave will talk on this here in a second, but also there are times when you need to be able to meet sovereign requirements out there, depending on where you are, located throughout the globe. And then also, there's a talk about a multi-cloud world, whether it's IBM Cloud or any of the other clouds, and to be able to protect that data in a hybrid multi-cloud world out there as well. So Dave, any other comments that you want to touch on around sovereignty?
No, well, yeah, actually, when I think about it, I mentioned that, the way this is set up and priced, it's using basically the IBM Cloud model. It's already a great model. Folks are like moving their applications and moving their business onto IBM Cloud to run different types of applications. This is a great opportunity to actually use the IBM Cloud as a tool to solve some basic use cases in security. And for data sovereignty, it's set up as a cloud model. So you can fire it up, pay for it for a couple of months, meet the security and compliance requirements, size it perfectly the way it needs to be done, run your compliance, run your testing, make sure everything works fine, and then shut it all down and keep it for next time. So without having to pay, for all the extra hardware, all the extra storage, all the extra resources needed to keep that going. You can just basically set up these recovery areas in the different geos, and we're in just about every geo. So I don't think there's any issue about meeting sovereignty requirements, as long as you can move the data to the different regions and different areas. You're good to go.
Okay, thanks, Dave. All right, and Dave, over to you. Just talking kind of a summary slide of cyber recovery on IBM Cloud.
Yeah, Sam, I mean, we have a good joint solution here, I think. Don't you?
Yeah, I do. And I look at, what Veeam brings to the table in regards to, all of our data protection solutions on this, protecting your data, recovering your data securely on this, protecting against ransomware, but also the fact that IBM Cloud and the scope and the global scope that you have, and really kind of the trusted name of IBM and protecting your customer environments out there, and bringing them together, the best of both here for a cyber recovery solution for our customers on there. I think it's just a tremendous opportunity for our customers to leverage IBM Cloud.
Yeah, I agree, and you get the flexibility too to create an environment that is really good for your organization. You're not kind of cookie cutting yourself into this bucket or that bucket. We give you the flexibility, and you're supported by IBM and Veeam. So and VMware too. We use VMware as the tool and the engine to get all this going. So you can't go wrong with these three.
Absolutely, great solution. So with that, I just kind of want to bring it to an end here with talking about a few resources to be able to leverage here. We've gone through lots of material on the presentation here, but this is some additional information that you can leverage. First of all, from a Veeam perspective, we have the ransomware assessment kit that's going to allow you to go in and take a look at that and do a true assessment of your environment. There's also a lot of education that's available around this from a ransomware perspective that Veeam has put together. And of course, all that comes in a library of additional content, whether it's at an executive level or at a technical level. Lots of things for you to be able to leverage from the additional resources on this. And then, Dave, I know that from an IBM Cloud and your cyber resiliency site, even more information for them to use.
Yeah, you can download the solutions guide I was talking about. That's available for free, so you can download that and see all the details of how this is built.
So everyone that's joined us today, thank you very much for your time. We really do appreciate it. If there's anything that we can do to help you, please do not hesitate to call. You've got our contact information from the beginning of the presentation. And Dave, I believe you'll wrap up from here. Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds great. I think maybe we got some questions.
Absolutely. Yeah, we got a lot of great questions rolling in from the audience. If you have a question about this exciting new solution from Veeam and IBM, now is the time to ask. While we answer those questions, we're going to bring up a poll for everyone out there. We want to get your feedback on the poll coming up now. All right, you should see a poll on your screen. The question is, do you currently have a cyber recovery plan in place? And we want to get your feedback on this. I will share the results here with you in just a moment. And we're going to leave this up while we answer a few more audience questions we still have left. If you have a question, now's the time to get it in. Let's see, Dave, I see another good one here for you, and they're asking, how quickly can I recover with this?
Right.
That's a good question, because one of the things that's important to understand in this solution is it's designed to kind of work with existing backup and existing DR, or disaster recovery solutions. So just like you wouldn't use a DR tool for all your normal backup use cases, you wouldn't be using a cyber recovery to do all of your DR kind of use cases. So you really have to have all three: backup, cyber recovery, disaster recovery, all working in concert and in unison. So a DR site normally would be, a quick recovery, because you're kind of replicating the infrastructure in the case of some kind of a regional disaster. So the idea is to get it up as quickly as possible. If you have a ransomware attack or some kind of advanced threat that somehow compromises the critical data in your production environment, you go back to this cyber recovery environment that we're talking about, and you restore it from there, knowing that it's the last known good software or the last known good data. So the question is, how do you ensure that it's last known good, or that it is clean? Well, you do that through two ways. One, you would run using whatever scanning tools your organization might have, or you use a third-party scanning tool and clean the data, make sure it's accurate. Then when you move it into the cyber recovery isolated infrastructure, it's known good. So therefore it's locked down, it's immutable, and then you can easily copy it back over as quickly as you can, and knowing that it's good. If there's any question that it's not good, or that you want to ensure that it is, the IBM Cloud Cyber Recovery Vault system has sandbox systems that you can spin up, deploy the data in there, check it out, figure out that it is accurate or clean, and then you can then move it back into production. All the time it's in the cyber recovery infrastructure, it's protected through that air gap from production, so it will never go back in and affect your production environment. So in that case, it could take as long as it takes to determine that it's clean. So it kind of varies, but those are the general use cases.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Thanks for laying that out. I want to remind everyone about the poll, and for anyone out there who put other on the poll, I see eight people responded with other. Drop your plan in place, or what you're doing around cyber recovery. Drop it in place, or drop it in the questions pane, because we want to get your feedback on that. I want to find out what the other solution is that you're using for cyber recovery, or what the plan is. Let's see. Here's a good one for you, Sam, around Veeam. They're asking, what products from Veeam are required for this cyber resiliency offering?
Yeah, great question. So with Veeam and our Veeam backup and replication product, that's our key marquee product. It provides features that provide the functionality that we're talking about here. So it's all part of Veeam backup and replication. And there are 5 or 6 key feature parts of that: sure backup, secure backup, and so on, as well as Veeam One, which is a key component to be leveraging for the management and monitoring of these environments. So whenever consumption goes up high and the workloads are high on that, you can determine that there may be something that's going on from a ransomware protection perspective. So those solutions, Veeam backup and replication with Veeam One.
Excellent. Yeah, it sounds easy to get started. In fact, there's a couple folks out here, they're wanting to know, is this available today from IBM Cloud, Dave?
So that's a really good question. We launched it last week, and it is available as of now. And it is co-developed, by the way, I should add, between VMware engineering, IBM engineering, and of course Veeam. And we're planning to grow the solution and add more capabilities into 2023. So yes, it is available today.
Excellent. That's exciting. Exciting new offering. Sam, what about, with other solutions out there potentially for consideration in the market, what is it that you feel that makes this really different and unique in the market when it comes to data protection and cyber resiliency?
Yeah, well, Dave just touched on this, and the fact that this is a collaboration between Veeam, VMware, and IBM Cloud. And a key differentiator for IBM Cloud and why IBM Cloud is because IBM Cloud provides full hypervisor access with a VMware solution, which allows a customer to be able to take advantage of all of the feature functionality within the Veeam solutions and on IBM Cloud. That is different from the other cloud providers. So allows IBM to truly provide additional value for their clients in this type of environment.
Very nice. That's important. It's so critical. Another good question here that came in, they're asking, what about, getting started with this? Like, if folks say don't have anything today, and I see on the poll, in fact, there's 19% that say, no, they don't have anything, and 16% that say they're building out a framework. 5% say they're planning to develop something in 2023. And so for those folks out there who just want to kind of get started, what's the foundation for this, and what's the easiest route?
Dave, you want to address it first?
Well, I think the first step is to recognize you need to begin. And I think that's a good question. The fact that you're here listening to the webcast is an important point. I think you need to realize that it's not going away. It's going to continue to grow. And as I mentioned earlier, if you want to be competitive and agile and be more responsive to your clients and customers, you need to move into more modern infrastructure, more modern applications. And so doing that, there's going to be gaps, and that's going to open up your security landscape. So the fact that you're here is great. The second thing is, I would look to organizations like Veeam, who can have the expertise in not only backup, but they also do DR. They do tiering to IBM Cloud, as you see here with cyber recovery. They have the infrastructure and the knowledge to do the soup to nuts, or they can implement it over time and put together a plan that's right size for your organization. So I would just respond directly into our Veeam friends.
Yeah, so thank you, Dave. As we pointed out earlier in the presentation, having a good, solid, secure backup of your data is the first line of defense on this. So making sure that your data is protected, that is key, being prepared on this. And having your solution, your sources in place to be able to do that. We can absolutely work with you and your teams and with the IBM teams to be able to develop this solution with and for you. Now, it obviously goes without saying, IBM has for centuries been the trusted name in IT and security. So working very closely with the IBM team and the Veeam team and the VMware team to be able to provide this solution for you. Reach out to us, connect with us. We're here to help.
Excellent. And I think that's a great place for us to wrap up today's webinar. Sam and Dave, I really appreciate your expert insight on this, the really cool demo. I learned so much. I know the audience did as well. Thanks for the great presentation.
Thank you, David.
You're very welcome, David. Thanks for being here.
And of course, thank you to our friends at IBM Cloud and Veeam for supporting us on the event today. I encourage you to check out there in the handouts tab. There are resources that you want to check out before you go. There's the Veeam Data Protection Trends 2022 report. There is the Veeam 2022 Ransomware Trends infographic, and also the IBM Cloud Pak Solutions guide to find out more details on this exciting new solution with IBM Cloud and Veeam. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the webinar today. Before we go, I should announce the winner of our Amazon $300 gift card prize. This is going out to Tim Bowles from Illinois. Congratulations. You can start your holiday shopping early. Thank you, of course, to the Actual Tech Media audience, and we'll see you next time. Have a great day. Bye-bye.